for this Minamata Online session, getting prepared for the second full national report in English. We are also happy to tell you that there's a French-only session happening shortly from 3 to 4 p.m. today, CET, and a Spanish-only session is scheduled to happen tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. CET. There is an Arabic session as well. Unfortunately, it is postponed until further notice due to technical issues, but please do watch out for it for new announcements on when it will be held. Before we continue, we would just like to remind you to please use the WebEx app for seamless participation in this online training. Again, if you're using the WebEx via browser, please shift and go use the WebEx app for seamless participation. Now, without much further ado, let me welcome Mr. Aisaku Toda, the Senior Program Manager, to formally welcome you to this session. Aisaku?
Thank you, Richard. I am happy to provide opening remarks on behalf of the Minamata Convention Secretariat. My name is Aisaku Toda, responsible for scientific and technical matters of the convention. First of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation for your great effort to implement the Minamata Convention, including national reporting. We can be proud of a record of an outstanding reporting rate, 91% for 2019, 95% for 2021, and 82% for 2023. The Implementation Compliance Committee, ICC, in its meeting last month, acknowledged the high rate of reporting and requested parties who had not yet submitted their records second short national reports to do so by the 31st of May, so that we can have even higher reporting rate for the report to the COP6 later this year. National reporting is one of the key obligations of the convention. It is an official report from all the parties to the Conference of the Parties through the Secretariat. National reporting forms the basis of the review of the COP pursuant to Article 23, Paragraph 5b, and also of the work of the Implementation Compliance Committee and the effectiveness evaluation. You can look at how the national reports are used in the document for the 7th meeting of ICC and the synthesis of national reports submitted to the effectiveness evaluation group that are available from the web. The national reports are to be submitted as COP1 decided in its decision MC 1/8 using the format adopted in that decision. The same decision also requested the Secretariat to develop an electronic version of the reporting format and encouraged each party to use that electronic version. Following this COP decision, the Secretariat launched the online reporting tool for the past reporting cycles and has been working to update and improve the tool to support complete and consistent reporting. I am happy to present the ORT for this reporting cycle. Today's session is part of a continuing series of trainings on national reporting that began with the first short reports. There are 3 other sessions planned for, and we are happy to be working with the BCRC of Argentina and Senegal to bring you sessions in Spanish, French, and Arabic. There will be a question and answer session towards the end of the session. The Secretariat would be happy also to respond to questions today and any follow-up questions by email. I hope this session is helpful, and we look forward to working with you in the task ahead of preparing the second full national report and in receiving the completed reports by the end of this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aisaku, for the welcoming remark, and also for putting into perspective or context the work we're doing, as well as its relation to the real work that the ICC and the Effectiveness Evaluation Group is doing. As Aisaku has mentioned, this work session is part of a continuing series of national reporting trainings that we've been conducting since the first short national report. So as you will note in the slide in front of you, the focus of this session is not to go over all of the questions, but rather focus on the 19 questions that were amended under Decision 5/13. Please see the end of this PowerPoint where to access the online training sessions as well as materials. You will note in the table in front of you, we have 4 key topics to cover today: the reporting obligations and timelines, accessing the online reporting tool, the status of the national focal points, and Decision 5/13. Before we begin, let me emphasize that this presentation is for explanatory purposes only. The presentation slides do not intend to substitute nor interpret any of the convention text. Participants are strongly encouraged to refer to the actual text of the convention or relevant decisions for accuracy. So thank you very much. And with that disclaimer, let's jump quickly into the reporting obligation and timelines. You will note the slide in front of you refers back to Article 21, Paragraph 1, in which requires all parties to report to the Conference of Parties through the Secretariat on 3 items: measures that have been taken to implement the convention, effectiveness of such measures, and the possible challenges. To the right of you is a graph or a chart showing the timeline of the relevant decisions. Of particular note would be decision MC/1/8, which determined or adopted the timing and format of the reports. Here you will have the short reports every 2 years with 4 recurring questions, and the full report for covering 43 questions over 4 years. And the main thing again would be decision 5/13, which is the latest one, which is on the 19 amended questions, and also the adoption of the guidance for completing the national reports. Now, the following slide, we will tackle the how to access the online reporting tool. And with that, I pass the mic to my colleague, Anna. Anna?
Thank you, Richard. Good day, everyone. First I wanted to check if you are going to move the slides or if you are going to give me the presenter role. So it's how you prefer.
I can move the slides for you.
Okay, thank you very much. So moving on, please. The first thing that I wanted to share with you is that we are glad to see that already 15 parties have started working with the online reporting tool. So this is really good news after we launched it a couple of weeks ago. And now I'm going to walk you through the main features that enhance the user experience through this online reporting tool. The first thing, moving back, please. The first thing is that you will be able to log in using the username and password the Secretariat has sent you to all national focal points. Once you log in, there will be a screen with the instructions to read them carefully. And there's also like 2 links, one to the reporting guidance and the other to the user guide. You can also, as you can see on the below screenshot, check your previous reports and of course start working on your report. If we move on to the next slide, please. Working on your national report means that you can do it in the 6 UL languages. On the top right side, there's next to my account, there's a language switcher, and you can choose to do it either in English, French, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, or Russian. The tool has been designed to save your work automatically. Nevertheless, we encourage you to use the button Save Draft on the bottom part of your screen every time you fill in like a question or you complete an article. Next. The first part on the report is part A, which is information on the party. Here, because it's a test sample, it's empty, but the information will be pre-populated according to the information you submitted to the Secretariat on regarding the national focal points contact information. Next. And then on part B, which is the corpus of the national report, comprising all questions organized by article, you will see a link to the reporting guidance per article to guide you through how best to approach your reply. Plus, there's also a link to the convention text paragraph for ease of reference. On the right part of your screen, you will see your completion status. And also a very important feature is that you can start at any given article. So you don't need to start with article 3 and follow A4. So according to your need, you can choose with article you want to start and then continue. Moving on, please. Here you have another screenshot with the same question as the previous one, and you can see that there's an automatic logic pipelining depending on your reply. So it depends on how you reply, if it's a yes or a no. Different information or moving to different questions will be displayed according to the reporting format. And moving on, in terms of technical approaches, there is a technical team to help you. You can contact the Secretariat if you experience any challenges, whether it's technical or substantive. And on the right sidebar below the completion status, there's this link, contact support. So you can click and then we will be happy to assist you. Of course, it is possible to log out and log in at any given time. And on the top part of your screen, there will be like a link to your account. So once you click there, you will find the button to log out and then similar then to log in. Next. And very importantly, before submitting the report, please review all your responses. There's a section called preview, which will be displayed once that you complete all your responses. And another like nice feature is that when you are previewing your report, you will be able to edit your responses. You can see the main screenshot here with this sample question 8.5, that there's like a button to edit, and that will drive you to that question to edit it. Before submitting it, you can print a copy of your report, and of course, moving then, yes, you can move to my final slide, Richard. Again, this is the same repeated message to remember you to complete your full national report by 31st of December, because this is an obligation to the convention under Article 21. So I will stop here, and I think that now it's time for Lynn to move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Lynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna and Richard. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Ling. I'm Program Management Assistant at the Minamata Convention Secretariat, and today I will present to you the status of the national focal point designations to the convention, and also reiterate the role of the national focal point under Article 21, national reporting. So in this slide, you can see the status of the national focal point designations with the regional breakdown. And looking at the pie chart, we have the national focal point designation rate at 95%. And out of 152 parties to the convention, we have received complete designation from 145 parties. However, 3 parties that have not submitted nominations, and 4 parties that have still have the pending nomination. And below the bar chart, it provides a regional breakdown of the national focal point designation status. This one just to give you a glimpse of the status of the national focal point designation. So moving on to the next slide. Just to recall, paragraph 4 of Article 17 states, each party shall designate a national focal point for the exchange of information under this convention, including with regard to the consent of importing parties under Article 3. So, as the custodian of information submitted under Article 21, national reporting, the national focal point plays an important role in the reporting process. Each party's report is to be submitted by or through the designated national focal point. And to assist with the compiling and completing of the national report, you may also indicate an additional contact officer in the online reporting tool in Part A. And so if there is any follow-up request for clarifications, we will send it to both national focal point and the additional contact officer. For parties that nominated more than one national focal point, you were invited to confirm with us. The national focal point would be responsible for submitting the national report. This confirmation should be sent to the email address mea-minamata-secretariat@un.org to ensure that the designated national focal point will receive the login credential to the online reporting tool. And I would like to keep you updated. As of today, the Secretariat has successfully sent the ORT credentials to 133 parties out of 151 parties required to submit the second full national report, which is due by the end of this year. The remaining 18 parties have not received the ORT credentials due to the following reasons. The parties have not yet confirmed the national focal point will be responsible for reporting. The national focal point nomination is still pending. For example, the designation form is missing or has not been signed. And the last reason is because no national focal point nomination has been reached to the Secretariat. Therefore, we strongly encourage parties that have not received the ORT credential to reach out to the Secretariat at mea-minamata-secretariat@un.org as soon as possible for assistance. This will ensure that your country can have access to the online reporting tool without any delay. And in this slide, as you can see on the screen now, that is the Annex 1, which is the template for the National Focal Point form. And Annex 2 is the model letters for the nomination. Both documents are available on our website. And the designation form should be completed, and returned under the cover of an official nomination letter, either from the government official contact point to the UN Environment Programme, or from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or from the permanent mission to the UN in Geneva or to the UN Environment Programme. And it should be addressed to the executive secretaries of the convention. I would like to emphasize that please submit the form, because this is really important for us to remain the current our records up to date. And please note, self-nominations cannot be considered. And if you intend to appoint more than one national focal point, please use one form for each designated individuals. And if you have any questions regarding the national focal point designation process, please feel free to reach out to us at the email shown on the screen, and we'll be happy to assist you. Thank you. And now I hand over back to Richard for the next part of the session.
Thank you very much, Lynn and Anna. To the participants, you've heard discussions on how to access the online reporting tool, and Lynn just went over very carefully not just only the importance, but the key role the National Focal Point plays in getting the reports to the Secretariat. So even though you have all of this information in your hand, if the ORT is not properly accessed and used, and more importantly as well, if the national focal point is not designated or incorrectly appointed, not using the proper form, there will be a delay, or in cases, your report will not be deemed as submitted because of the procedural lapses, either in the appointment or designation of the national focal point. Okay. Without much further ado, let's jump into the next topic, which is, as you will see in the slide in front of you, this decision 5/13 and the guidance on completing the national report. Okay. Now, moving on, the slide in front of you now, I'll direct you to the right-hand side of it. The Annex 1 to Decision 5 MC/13 has all of the amendments, and you will see all these 19 amendments enumerated in the right-hand side of the slide in front of you. I will not go into details I will not read in all of these elements, but just take note that in the succeeding slides, when I present these questions, the text in red will be the indicative marker that that text has been amended by Decision 5/13. Now, Let's quickly go over the question structure for each of the, to help you understand the question structure of the national report. So Part B consists of 43 questions, and most of the questions would have a yes or no question structure. And in some instances, you will have a third option, which is either a do not know, or maybe a not applicable option. So again, generally, from the basics question structure, you have 2 yes or no options, and then a third one, and a third option every once in a while. Now, next slide, you will see that at times the basic yes or no options can be compounded or broke down into 2 formats. For example, as the slide in front of you says, the compound yes response can be yes with data or a yes with no data. So it's important to understand when these apply, and I'll work with you on the next slides with that. Now, at the very bottom, please note as well that in some questions, further details might be or may be requested of you. And when such details, for example, an explanation is required, you can narrate the text in comment boxes that will appear in the online reporting tool, or upload attachments or provide links in the space provided. Please note that most of the questions are mandatory. The only supplemental questions will be indicated as supplemental, or these are voluntary questions to be answered. And again, these will be properly indicated in the online reporting tool. So with that, let's move on to Article 3, Mercury Supply Sources and Trade. Just to quickly go over what does Article 3 require us to do, or the parties to do on this issue. So Article 3 has control measures to limit the global supply of mercury. And as you will note, there are areas covered under Article 3, and these are primary mercury mining, stocks and sources, use of mercury in chlor-alkali production, and trade. So each area or topic has a specific control measure. So we will quickly go over what these topics are. In the next slide, you will now see is primary mercury mining. So this is covered under Articles 3.3 and 3.4. The corresponding questions are in questions 3.1 and 3.2. Now, as you will note, the questions have not changed, but what has changed are the 2 yes compound responses. You will note that yes, that there is yes primary mercury mining with available data, and there is a yes option with primary mercury mining with no available data. So in question 3.1, what does primary mining with available data mean? So if the party has information on their primary mercury mining, to the left of your screen, to the bottom left of your screen, they would need to indicate the anticipated date of closure, total amount mined, etc. Now, what is primary mercury mining with no available data? This is in line with decision MC 5/2, where parties were encouraged to report on all primary mercury mining, irrespective of status, whether it's formal, informal, or illegal. So in these instances, if you have these informal, illegal, or unrecognized mining status, the party would need to provide information, or if they have no information, they can explain that in Part E. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Article 3.5a, stocks and sources. So the relevant question here is question 3.3. Again, as you will note by looking at the slide in front of you, the questions remain the same. But what has, excuse me, the questions remain the same, and that is whether a party has endeavored to identify stocks or sources. Now, endeavors commonly means an attempt. So the question refers to whether a party has attempted to do an inventory of stocks and sources. Now, the main changes, again, you will see are in red, and these are on the yes response option. Yes with new data, and then yes, endeavored and indicate same stock as reported. Let me quickly go over what these 2 new options would mean for you. So if the party has new data based on current inventory, or if the party is reporting for the first time, they would click yes with new data. Now, if the party has conducted prior inventory that it's still current, and it's the same result as the previous report, the party would click yes, endeavor to indicate stocks as reported in the previous report. So this is essentially, if you have the same volume to report, you can just click onto this. And then the no, as is, etc. And the rest of the question structure is different. The other thing that you will note that is changed is, although the questions are the same, 5/13 has split 3.3 into 3.3A and 3.3B. 3.3A refers to stocks and B on sources. Moving on, the next item will be Article 3.5 on chlor-alkali facilities. Again, you will note with the slide in front of you, the question is still the same. The main change is on this time in the no response. So there are two options. No has determined it has no excess mercury, or no has not made any has not made a determination. So with the no responses, just to quickly remind you what 3.5 is. So when a chlor-alkali plant is decommissioned, the party may determine that the mercury becomes available from decommissioning is excess to its requirement. So if the party has no chlor-alkali, they would the answer would be no, and then move on to the next question. Or sorry, if the party does not have chlor-alkali, it would reply no and move to the next question. And then if it has determined no excess mercury, that would be applicable as well. And then no has not made a determination would be chosen if it has, as the choice mentions, has not made any determination on the excess nature of such mercury. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Article 3, 6 to 10 covers trade. Similarly, with the other questions, the questions remain the same. What changes here are the two no response options. Namely, no export took place, and no consent was not given. So let me explain what these two options are. So for no export took place. So this is just makes clear that for any party that no trade of mercury took place. It's the fourth option that is maybe curious to most of you. So the fourth option is in line with paragraph 2 of decision 5/2, where the Conference of Parties encourage parties to provide more information, if any, in their next national reports, including on measures taken to prevent exports which are not in compliance with the convention. So the last option, no consent was not given, sees a situation where trade occurred that was not in compliance with the convention. You can provide additional information on such trade in Part E of the report, and then you can also click no consent was not given if this indeed occurred during the reporting period. Moving on to the next item. This is a continuation on trade. So again, as you will see here, this is part of the 3.5 question. There has been no changes here. So if there was trade and the party responded yes, the party is reminded to submit copies of the consent forms. It is recommended to do so. If it has not submitted the consent forms, then it should provide the relevant requirements, information showing the relevant requirements of paragraph C, Article 3 have been met. And lastly, if the party answered no, consent was not given, again, this is a reminder, this is a new item. Please provide information on the trade which was not in compliance with the convention in Part E of your report. That rounds up Article 3. Now let's move into Article 4. Overview of Article 4 on mercury-added products. So what are parties required to do on mercury-added products? The convention sets out 4 legally binding obligations. On the left side of the slide is an extract from the convention text. According to the convention, as you will remember, parties shall not allow the manufacture and import of mercury-added products listed in Part 1 of Annex A after the specified phase-out deadline, unless there has been an exemption registered by the party. We will not go into this session on these exemptions or how parties can access or trigger these, please refer to the excellent training sessions that has been provided on this, and you can find this on our website for more details on the issues on exemptions and also on when the amendments take effect. But I digress. So let me go back into the measures under the convention. Parties are also obliged to take measures listed in Part 2 of Annex A to phase down the use of dental amalgam. The third obligation is that the incorporation of mercury-added products listed in Part 1 of Annex A into assembled products is to be prevented through appropriate measures. And the last measure is the manufacture and distribution and commerce of mercury-added products not covered by any known use before the convention is to be discouraged. Now, so just to quickly give you an example, if you look at the slide in front of you, what are these amendments? So Annex A, Part 1, these are just examples. As you can see, the last top 5 agreed to phase out all fluorescent lamps from general lighting and all other amendments. So these are marked in blue in this slide. I'll not go over it over in detail on what these are and which these are. There is a link here on the slide where you can access the full list. Again, somebody in the chat already asked, is the presentation going to be provided after the session? Yes, it will be. So you can take your time going over this list, and especially the link after this session. So when we go into the specific measures, so this is going to be important, and we'll try to walk you through it because this affects your reporting for Article 4. So on phasing down the use of dental amalgam, the original list under Annex A Part 2 contained 9 measures. So I won't go into the details of the 9 measures here, so you can check that out on your convention text. But there was a 2022 amendment that added 2 mandatory measures to the 9. And in 2023, an amendment also added 1 measure that could be taken by the parties that have not phased out dental amalgam. For your interest in this coming COP6, it is expected to consider further amendments to Annex A Part 2. So in the next slide, you will see in front of you, this shows the original requirement that I mentioned. You will have access to this. I won't go into the details. Moving on to the next slide is just to give you an overview, more to dive in a little bit in detail what the 22 and 23 amendments are. So if you recall, I mentioned earlier that there was a 2022 amendment that added 2 mandatory measures. So this you can find at the top of the slide in front of you, which are measures against the use of amalgam in bulk form and measures against the use of amalgam for children and pregnant or breastfeeding women. Now to the top right, you will see the 2023 amendment, which says that parties that have not yet phased out dental amalgam are to submit a national action plan or a report on the progress in phasing down the amalgam, and that this is to be included in the national report under Article 21. So we'll go into the details on how this might work later. Now, on the next slide that you will see, we go into the questions in the reporting format. So question 4.1 has not changed. What has changed? It is marked in red, and it's a very simple text change. If either yes or no, if the party has indicated either yes or no, and the party has registered for an exemption pursuant to Article 6. So what does this mean? It simply acknowledges that a party, even though it has an exemption, can still and actually some parties have registered measures as well. So this is just a way to acknowledge that even with an exemption, parties are indeed taking actions or measures. Next slide will show you question 4.3. This is the next question that's affected by 5/13. So as you will note in the slide in front of you, the question remains basically the same. So what is the important change that you need to take note of? First, the question has been changed to reflect the amendments to Annex A as adopted in 4/3. This is now reflected in item B, or rather specifically 4.3B. So 4.3a still asks the original question whether a party has taken 2 or more measures in line with subparagraph 1 to 9 of Part 2 of Annex A. Question 4.3b asks if the amendment has entered into force for the party. And now it breaks down the question further, and the party has first, has it taken the measures specified? If it has taken measures specified, it would answer yes to both options in question 4.3b. If it has not taken measures specified, it would answer no to question 4.3b and provide an explanation in the space provided in the online reporting tool. Now, taken one, if a party has taken one measure but not both, it would answer yes to the measure it has taken in question 4.3b and no to question 4.3b to the measure that it has not taken. And also, the party will be prompted to provide an explanation in the space provided on why it has not taken any measures. Note, if the amendments to Annex A adopted in 4/3 has not yet entered into force for the party would reply not applicable to question B. Now, another situation would be, another context situation would be if the party has not used mercury in dental treatment after the entry into force of the convention for it, it would reply not applicable. Now, this is the critical thing, at least for you to note on this slide, that the reporting format has not yet reflected Decision 5/4 on the amendment of Part 2 of Annex A. Since the COP 5 Decision 5/4 to amend Annex A and B was officially communicated to the depository only on April 25, 2024, the amendment will only enter into force in April 25 of this year, which means that the amendment is outside of the reporting period for the second full national report. So there is yet no specific entry in the ORT for that. However, since parties who have not yet phased out dental amalgam are required to submit to the Secretariat either a national action plan or a report based on such available information on the progress of their phase out, a party that needs to submit this can do so in the Part E of the report using a link, or they can email directly to the Secretariat these types of information that they needed to submit under question 4.3. Moving on to the next slide, it will be on question 4.4. Again, the question is the same. The main text change is the no, not applicable option, which simply says, which simply confirms that they do not have facilities assembling products using mercury added products. Next slide will cover 4.5. And as you will again note, the question itself has not changed. So the question refers to new mercury added products that have become known after the entry into force for the convention for the party. The main changes in the no responses are in the follow-up questions. So if the party has taken action to discourage the manufacture and distribution and commerce of mercury added products and has not undertaken an assessment of the risk, the party would respond no, no action. If the party has not discouraged the manufacture and distribution and commerce of such mercury added products on the basis that its assessments of the risks and benefits demonstrate benefits to human health or the environment, the party would reply no, with the second no option. Now, if the party has provided the Secretariat with information on any such products, the party would then reply yes. If the party has not provided the Secretariat with information on any such product, the party will click no. That's the second no at the bottom, and then provide information, relevant information in Part E of the online reporting tool. So if the party answered yes to the information, they would need to add the information taken in the explanation box that will appear in the online reporting tool. So that covers Article 4. It was a little bit long, but I think Article 4 was the most substantive in terms of the 513 amendments. Let's now move to Article 5, an overview of the processes required to do, what are parties required to do when it comes to manufacturing processes, using mercury. So to the left of your slide, you will see an extract again from the convention. There's 4 legally binding obligations not to allow the use of mercury, take measures to restrict the use of mercury, discourage the development of any new facility, etc. Moving on to the next slide, going straight to the question. The affected question in Article 5 is first our question 5.3. Again, you will notice question is the same, structure of the question is similar, it identifies vinyl chloride monomer, etc. Question options are the same. The only change in question 5.3 is that if the party responds no to any of the questions or any of the processes that are mentioned in 5.3, it would require the party would need to explain the reason for responding no and to include any challenges encountered and the reason for the party not being to take measures. The next slide is on 5.5. So similarly, again, the question has not been touched, but the options have been, and particularly this affects the no options. So particularly new request for information. So the amendment adds a new request for information where the party responds no to explain the response to include the challenges required. Sorry, and so that's with regard to the previous matter. So on the 5.5. Let me cover the first no action taken. So if the party does not have manufacturing processes in which mercury or mercury compounds are intentionally used, the party would reply no action taken and provide in party any explanation for its response. Now, second, if the party has not identified any facility that has been developed using any other manufacturing process, the party would then also reply no action taken. If the party has identified any facility and the party has demonstrated to the conference of parties that manufacturing process provides significant environmental benefit, but there's no technically, economically feasible mercury alternatives, the party would click no, the party demonstrated to the conference, etc. So this follows the structure of question 5.5, specifically with relevant to Article 5, Paragraph 7. Okay, from Article 5, we will jump now to Article 10. Some of you have noticed, where's Article 7? Article 7, the changes is quite minimal. It just simply prompts parties to jump, if they responded no to 7.1, to jump to question 7.5. That's it. Nothing substantive, merely procedural. So that's why we're not going to cover it at length here. But let me now focus on Article 10 on interim storage. So if you will remember, Article 10 applies to interim storage of mercury that is not waste mercury or not waste mercury compounds. There's a guidance in Decision 2.6 that's been adopted on this matter. So let me move you to the next slide. What is the main changes? What are the main changes to Article 10? No changes in the question. The only two changes are that parties are required to explain if they responded no, or if they responded do not know. So you might be wondering, when is a situation where a party does not know? Particularly, a party may check do not know if it has no specific idea where the locations of the storage facilities are on an interim basis, or when it has taken some measure but is not yet fully assessed on the environmentally sound nature of those measures. So a party can click do not know and then will proceed to provide an explanation in the space provided. Now, jumping from Article 10, we move to Article 11. So what are the parties required to do on mercury waste under Article 11? Now, the slide in front of you explains the three obligations under Article 11. And what are these? Very quickly, parties are required to manage mercury waste in an environmentally sound manner. Parties could recover, recycle, reclaim, or directly reuse mercury waste only for a use allowed under the convention or for environmentally sound disposal. Lastly, the third obligation would be parties are allowed to transport mercury waste across international boundaries only for the purpose of environmentally sound disposal. Note the relevant definitions of the Basel Conventions are applied to the Minamata Convention. Now, the next slide will touch on a little bit in detail on the definition of mercury waste, because some parties have maybe sort of may need some update on this. So just to recall, there are 3 categories of mercury waste: waste consisting of mercury or mercury compounds, wastes containing mercury or mercury compounds, and waste contaminated with mercury or mercury compounds. The 2 prior categories, that consisting of and containing mercury compounds, excuse me, there is no threshold. However, for waste contaminated with mercury, the Conference of the Parties established the threshold as 5 parts per million total concentration of mercury. Now, for overburdened waste rock tailings for mining, except those from primary mercury mining, there's a different definition that applies. Now, for a detailed look into mercury waste, again, there's referring you to our resources page of the convention website, where you can take a look at the Minamata Online session on mercury waste that has taken place. Let's move on to the questions on Article 11. So, question 11.1, no change in the question. What has changed? Option answers. And the option response, as you will note, mimic the provisions of Article 11, paragraph 3. So what the amendment does is to simplify the responses. And as I said, it merely mimics or repeats what those 3 obligations that I have described previously. And this is where the parties would need to check which measures they have taken. If no, this is the thing to take note of. If you answer no, you will be prompted to explain, and a question box will appear where you can include your explanation for responding no. Next slide will take you to 11.2. Again, no change in the question, but the change are found in yes, there are facilities in the party's territory, and yes, there are facilities outside of the party's territory accessible to the party. So this just recognizes the limitations of final disposal options in the territory of a party. Moving on, Article 16, health aspects. You will note here under Article 16, parties are encouraged to take several measures. I won't go into the detail, but just take note the WHO has put together a strategic planning a manual, which is available under in our website. Key changes to Article 16. And this is one of the few notes that you will see. It did change the question. 5/13 has tried to update and make clear what 16.2 is asking. So if you recall, 16.1 asks parties about the information that's available. 16.1 asks the parties about information on measures taken. 16.2 asks, as highlighted in red, measures beyond the provision of information to the public on exposure mercury related to 16.1. Simply put, if the party has taken any measures that's not listed in 16.1, you would add it in 16.2. Okay, and then finally, moving on to Articles 17, 18, and 19. As you will see here, this relates to the information exchange, public information, and research, development, and monitoring. The key changes to questions 17.1, 18.1, and 19.1 are merely in the options if a party responds yes. The questions remain the same, but the options, if a party responds yes, as you will see here in question 17.1, mimics the provision of the convention. So it merely enumerates what the article requests or asks the party, so that you can quickly check and mark which of these options you have taken or measures you have taken in response to question 17.1. This alleviates the need for noting or putting in a narrative on this item. Okay, next slide will be covering quickly the guidance on completing the national report. The guidance to completing the national report was adopted in 5/13, and you can find the full guidance in Annex 2. Now, 5/13 also requested the Secretariat to reflect the amendments to the reporting format as adopted in the reporting guidance. So we have done this by adding additional text to the guidance on the 19 amended reporting format questions, and we have done so and marked it and underlined it. So we have also added reference per question in the ORT, as Anna earlier explained. So you should have easy access and ready access to that information when you're going through the national report. So some reminders when we use the guidance for completing the national report. The purpose of the reporting guidance is to clarify the information. It's not intended as a manual on how to implement the Articles of the Convention. It follows the structure of MC1/8, 4/8, and 5/13. So please consult specifically Part B, which is structured following question by question on how to respond or strategies to approach the question. The link to the reporting guidance is found on this slide. And note, and just as a reminder, if you have disaggregated data for female, male, children, indigenous peoples, as well as local communities, if you have those data, please add them in your report. If you're not sure how to add them, you can always add them in Part E of the report to elaborate on such data. And this is my last, and that was my last slide. So I'll pass on the floor to Lynn to take over for the question and answer. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Richard. So now the floor is open for the Q&A section. So while we have received some questions in the chat box, we encourage you to put your question into the chat box so that we can answer your question one by one. And before Richard will assist you with the question that you have, I would like to share with you some tips to complete the full national report on time, which is so on the screen. So I think this one is a repetitive message that you have been hearing us talking, but I just would like to reiterate here that please plan ahead and coordinate, collect, and collect the information required for the national report. Following which is to identify and double check the attachment and links that may be needed in good time to ensure that the complete reports are submitted to the online reporting tool by the deadline. And when you report the annual data, please specify the years. So, for example, where the reporting period is not from the 1st January to the 31st December, please specify the period. And when you open when you're answering the open questions, please ensure your response are concise while also provide a meaningful narrative. The next point is to check the consistency between the responses to the previous report. And if there is any changes, please use the Part E to explain the change or any discrepancy. And the last point is about the unit. And if you need to report on the unit in which information is on the amounts are to be provided. For example, please also be mindful on the unit as well. For example, metric tons. So I'm not sure if my colleague is now ready.
Hey, Lynn, thanks. I've gone over the the questions in the chat. Thank you, Lynn. And I've gone through as I said, I've gone over the questions, and let me read the questions and then provide a response after each question. And if I missed anything, please just put it in the chat. So there was a question from Karina Onofre. If during the filling out of the second full national report, one realizes there was a mistake and has made during the filing, is there any possibility to correct that mistake? So I assume that when you say filing, you mean submitted. So let me backtrack. So if, as Anna has explained in her segment on accessing the online reporting tool, you can save your work as it's automatically saved, and you can continue to work on your report, so you can make changes at any point in time. Now, after submitting, so I guess this is your question, after you click submit and then you realize there's an error, there's always there's a process where the Secretariat checks for completeness on whether all the responses have been logged in. During this period, you can email the Secretariat and alert us there has been an error, and we would be happy to work with you in amending or changing the response in your online reporting tool to the correct response that you want. So that can happen at any point in time after submitting, but the sooner the better as well. And just take note, entering or making amendments to the report is a manual process. So the online reporting tool is now fully automated. So once you submit it, there's a database that's generated. So if there's any amendment, this becomes a manual entry. And sometimes some parties are wondering why it's taking us so long. So first come, first serve, depending on how many parties would like to make changes to their report. The Secretary will make those amendments as quickly as possible based on the number or queue in which the party's request comes through. Now, there was another question coming, and thank you so much for that question, Karina. There was another question from Monica Aragon. Since what year is the new information required under question 3.3? So we're looking here per reporting period. So if we're looking at the second full national report, this covers the period from January 1, 2021 up to December 31, 2024. So you would need to report on your question 3.3 based on those reporting period. Now, if the result of your second full national report is similar to your second short national report, you'll just click same as the previous report, unless you'll have new data for the 2 years that's not covered by the second short national report. So I hope that is helpful. Now there is, I believe, another question from Carmen Capriles. Can we share the links? Yes, when you go over, once you have these slide presentations, you can just click on the text that's hyperlinked, and that'll bring you immediately to the link of the document that's related to the that particular link. Let me just also quickly share with you the slide on capacity building materials and national reporting. As we've said, this is a continuing series. This is a continuation of the series of national reporting trainings that we have been providing. So you can access this on the resources page of our website, all the way from the first short national report. But for your purposes, we bring you to season 2, where we started the full national report. So you will have access there on all the explanations on the other questions that have not been changed by 5/13. Also of note, I'd like you to take a look and scan this Minamata tools, especially for new parties. This would be very helpful for you. So there's another question that just came in. Do non-parties, this is from Lena Levi, do non-parties need to report as well? As non-parties, they're not obligated to make a report. However, we have received some reports previously from non-parties about certain items that they're undertaking with regard to the convention. So are non-parties required to report? No, they are not. But any information that's forwarded to the Secretariat that's being done by a non-party is most welcome. And then there is another question. Sorry, the session seems to be targeting. There's a question from Evans Rubara. This session seems to be targeting parties. I was just wondering how observer CSOs are looped into the process, given the fact that the implementation of the NAPs in different countries, especially has not shown any success to address the issue of mercury use in ASGM sectoral activities, including the handling of tailings. Thank you for your comment, Evans. So when it comes to, so it looks like you're looking at 2 items on this issue. Accessing or being part of the national reporting, and then also the national action plan. So these are 2 separate things. So on the national action plan, when national action plans are developed, there's supposed to be a steering group that's created, and then there should be, and within the plan should be a consultation with stakeholders. And in each of those plans that's implemented under Article 7, there is a review process underway. In fact, there's a guidance that's being developed under the Secretariat, which will be shared. A draft will be shared soon to the parties and also observers. So take a look at that. there's an opportunity to engage in the review of the implementation of Article 7, not just by parties, but by stakeholders as well. So those are the process for the NAP. And for the review, and then for the reporting, I encourage you to contact the respective national focal points of each country and to try to understand how the data is collected and compiled by the national focal point and then reported to the parties. And then, so if there's any issues that has come up, I'm not able to cover it, please email us. We'd be happy to provide you with further information. And then lastly, I do know it's 2 o'clock. We're out of time, but I do know that there's a follow-up question on the QR code. So if it's not working, we'll double check it. We'll make sure it's working when we release the file. And then there's also a question from Anna. Can you repeat the data from the same previous report? So it's essentially, and sorry for going a little over time. So question 3.3, if the option of yes with previous data, it simply refers to previous data reported, which is the most recent report. It does not mean that you say previous data from the first short national report back in 2017 or 2018, depending on when the party submitted it. So the data of previous report, the data from previous report is requesting from the most current report and not the earliest. I hope that is helpful. And thank you so much for your question. So we have a homework. We will check the QR code, but we will make sure that the working QR code will be found in the presentation that will be shared with you all. And I think that's it for now. I hope this session has been super helpful for you. It's been a pleasure for us and for the team that's working to deliver this session. Thank you very much to all of you who attended. And please, if you have any questions, email us. Any comments as well is much welcome. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. Have a wonderful day and good luck in your journey in completing your second full national report.